Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I am going to do the much requested, long awaited video about how to buy plants on Facebook. So I've done a lot of videos unboxing on this channel where I've been like, oh, I bought this off of a Facebook buy sell trade group, and so I've gotten a few requests about if I can do a more in-depth video than that. So that's what this video is going to be. So this is mainly for people who've never bought plants on Facebook before, or are just starting out. It's going to be very basic, like 411. So if you're seasoned and you've bought a lot of plants off on Facebook, this is probably not the video for you because you already know all this information. So you can go ahead and skip this one, but come back for the next one. Also, I just want to quickly say that this video is only going to be focused on buying on Facebook. I'm doing a whole separate video about doing trades. That's probably going up sometime next week or so. So this will only be about buying on Facebook. Before we get really in depth, I just want to do kind of like a COVID-19 disclaimer that right now the post office is experiencing a lot of shipping delays. They're really backed up. I've heard people say that they're receiving their packages like 5 or 6 days after it was originally supposed to be delivered. So just keep that in mind, that this is probably not an optimal time to be buying like rare expensive aeroids from anywhere really, but this will also give you an opportunity to kind of check out some of these different Facebook groups, see what the vibes are, and really kind of observe before you dive into buying once this whole thing is over. Alright, let's get into it. So why I think that buying plants off Facebook buy sell trade groups is one of the best places you can buy plants is because there's always people buying and selling. So, a reputable company like NSC Tropicals or Steve's Leaves can only produce so many plants, and the demand just the demand is always higher than the amount that they can create, versus a place like Facebook buy sell trade groups where a lot of times it's not people who like sell plants professionally for a living and they just have a very extensive collection of plants, and let's say they propagated their varicosum and now they're selling this propagation of the varicosum, and so there's always plants available on there. You can pretty much always find any plant that you are looking for. So the very first question is probably, well, where on Facebook do I go to buy plants? The short answer is BST groups, buy sell trade groups. But if you just look up Plant BST on Facebook, you'll find that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different groups. So I'm going to kind of break it down and talk about some of my favorite groups, and then also talk about criteria that I've developed on why these are my favorite groups and what to look for when you're joining different Facebook groups. Before we get into buy sell trade groups, I also just want to quickly touch that there are groups that are not for buy sell trade but are plant focused. Some of great ones are like Planet Monstera, Planet Philodendron, Philodendron Enthusiast. They're all really cool groups just to talk about plants, look at plants. There are some amazing growers all throughout the world in those groups, but they're not for buying and selling, but I just want to quickly talk about those. So those are like a type of groups. But in terms of actual buy sell trade groups, I think that there are 3 different categories. So the 3 categories are local, and then there is general buy sell trade, and then there's also auctions. So I'm not going to talk about auctions, the third type of group, because I don't have a lot of experience in those. The plants in those groups are like ultra rare and they go for like top dollar. So I've never bought a plant off of an auction. I would not be winning any of those plants anyways, but maybe one day I'll buy a plant off of one of those groups and do a video in it. We'll see. So I'm mostly going to focus on the first 2 types, which are local and then general, like BST. Well, let's talk about local groups first, because that's probably the most self-explanatory. So these are obviously groups made for people that are geographically close to you. So for example, I live in Sacramento, so I'm in 2 local groups, one for Sacramento, like Plant Enthusiasts, and one for Northern California. And it's some of the great benefits of being in local groups is that, first of all, if you're buying a plant, you don't have to have it shipped. Most of the time I can drive to a lot of these sellers, and that saves me a lot of time when I'm acclimating plants, because obviously when plants are shipped, they go through a lot of stress, and so you have to spend some time to acclimate them. But if, you know, I'm just picking it up from a house that probably is in a very similar climate to me, it saves me a lot of time and a lot of stress over acclimating plants. So the second benefit is definitely that, you know, everyone in these groups, because they're geographically close to you, are also growing in very similar conditions. So especially when I had a lot of questions about gardening and plants for the outside, there are some very experienced gardeners in these groups as well who are able to give me tips on what they've done in years past, you know, in dealing with like California's extreme heat and dry climate, etc. So I highly recommend checking out local groups that are close to you. Alright, now let's talk about general bacillary trade groups. So these are split in kind of different ways. There are groups that are based on monetary amounts. So there's like houseplants for $10 or less, or houseplants for $15 or less. Those groups exist. You also have groups that are meant for trading only. So you can't buy plants off of those groups. They're only for trading. There's also groups that are like kind of general multi-purpose. So the group that I probably buy from the most is Time to Splurge and Purge USA BST. Put the title in here because it's kind of long. This is my favorite group. I've been in a lot of different groups and I've left a lot of different groups, but I really like this group the most. And then the second group that I buy from the most is probably a local group. So my criteria for when I'm looking to join a new group, first I look for if there are rules in the group. So usually when you're trying to join a Facebook group, it's a closed group, so you have to click join and like this question thing will pop up, and the questions will usually just be like, have you read the rules? Do you like houseplants, etc.? They're just there to make sure that you read the rules. So first of all, read the rules. I like having rules because that tells me that if something goes wrong, like if I buy a plant from a person and they just like don't ship it, that I will have someone that will help me resolve the issue. Kind of tying to that, I look forward to see if they have a robust team of moderators and administrators for the same reason, just in case, you know, anything ever goes wrong and I don't get the plant that I'm looking for, that someone will be able to help in or be able to step in and help me resolve that issue. And then I look for the amount of people that are in this group. Obviously you want, you know, this happy medium of not too many, but, you know, enough that you're having cool conversations. There are a lot of sellers, but not too many. And you don't want too many members, mostly for two reasons. One is that it gets, you know, like ultra competitive and it kind of becomes a frustrating experience when you're trying to buy plants, but also two, the amount of posts per day. So that's also an option for you to view when you're trying to join different groups, is how many posts per day does this group have. And I try to look for, you know, like low hundreds or even less than 100 per day, because it just clogs up my news feed and I get too many notifications and I don't like that. So yeah, obviously how many notifications you want per day is up to you. So just look for, you know, kind of how many new posts per day versus how many members are in the group. And you know, you can always leave Facebook groups if you don't like them. So I would say join a few in the beginning and then you'll see that they will have different vibes and like different types of sellers. And then you can leave the ones that you don't like or the ones that have too many posts per day. Sorry, my camera died, so we had to take a little pause there, but we're back. I'm sorry if something like shifted a little bit, that's why. So another group that I recommend everyone join is the Buy Sell Trade Review group. This group was designed so that you could leave reviews for sellers from different buy sell trade groups. So one thing to note though is that this group is fairly new. I think it's only been like in the works for about 6 months or so. And so there are definitely less members in this review group than, you know, like all of the other buy sell trade groups combined. And so that's just important to note, that if you are trying to participate in someone's purge and you try to look up their name in the review group and nothing pops up, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not like a great seller. It's just that people may have either bought plants, had good experiences, and, you know, like didn't leave a review, or, you know, like the people who've bought from them before have just decided not to leave reviews. So yeah, so it's definitely not like the end all be all of good sellers, but it is a really cool and good resource to use. So definitely join the Buy Sell Trade review group. Alright, so let's go over the nitty gritty, the actual processes on how to buy, and then also all the lingo. So when you're trying to buy a plant, sometimes sellers will just list, you know, like one plant, like they just have this Thai constellation that they're trying to sell. You know, some people will do that, but most sellers will do what it's called a purge, because this is the most efficient way to sell. So a purge is basically when a seller sets a time and they're going to be selling multiple plants at once. So let's say seller A is trying to sell, you know, like 12 or 15 plants, and so they're gonna put up a post being like, hey guys, I'm going to do a purge at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow, you know, April 14th, and some of the plants will be in there, and then they'll usually list a couple of plants just to give you like a teaser on what to expect during this purge. They'll be like, yeah, we'll probably have some albos, maybe some varicosums, etc. And then they'll list a bunch of rules. We'll go over rules later, but the majority of the rules are very simple, is that prices listed will not include shipping. Most people don't list shipping included, and then the shipping will usually cost an additional $9 or $10. Obviously sellers are not responsible if USPS loses the package, because, you know, obviously that's something you have to file a claim with USPS for, so that's understood. You have to pay within 24 hours, you have to use PayPal, some things like that. And then we'll go over why those are good rules and why those are things that you need to do later on in the video. But okay, so let's say, oh, seller A is telling you that at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow is when they're going to be purging. So everyone will usually bookmark the post by either writing following in the comments, or tagging themselves in the comments, or turning on post notifications. Personally, what I like to do is to leave a comment like following, or I'll leave a bunch of emojis or something, so that later on during the post time I can go into the group, use the search function in the group, and search up my own name. And I like to do this because if I turn on post notifications, if they're not purging for it until like tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, then I will get a notification anytime anyone else tags themselves or leaves a comment, and I don't want all those notifications, so I'll just leave a comment to kind of like bookmark the post, and then turn off post notifications. So now it's 6:30 p.m. the next day, the seller is getting ready to purge. And so what will happen is that everyone will, you know, come back to the post because they were excited to buy plants. And then the first person who comments sold under a plant is the person who gets to buy that plant, basically. So the seller will write philodendron varicosum, whatever, $90, right? Post the photo of the plant they're trying to sell. The first person to hit reply and then write sold is the person that wins the plant. This goes very quickly in these groups. I don't know, every one of these groups just have like really good Wi-Fi. Like I don't have great Wi-Fi, so a lot of times like I'll write sold and then I'll refresh the page and my comment was like the 6th comment. It happens a lot, but that's kind of like the fun in participating in these purges, right? So in an instance where you wanted this plant and someone had already commented sold, but you would still hope to buy this plant, you can comment next, which means that if for some reason the person who got the plant changed their mind or they don't pay in time, the seller will just go to the next person on the list, which would be you, and then you know, they'll offer you the plant that was being sold. So basically that just happens with like a bunch of different plants in a row. Okay, so let's say that you won the plant. So you were the first person to comment sold on this post. What you want to do is take a screenshot, and then when the purge concludes, you want to DM the seller, and then you send the seller the screenshot of the fact that you were the first person to comment sold. You're like, hi, I would love to purchase this plant. This is my PayPal, and then you give them your PayPal email address. Usually I would also like to chat with the seller about when they're expecting to send out the plant. So most sellers will ship Monday through Thursday, and that's just so that the plants don't spend an extra day at the post office. So if I'm buying a plant on a Friday, most likely the plant will be shipped out the following Monday. So you've given them your PayPal, and most sellers within 24 hours will send you an invoice through PayPal, and you pay through PayPal. And the reason that you want to pay through PayPal is that PayPal has seller and buyer's protection. So basically, buyer's protection is that if something happens, you can submit a claim through PayPal and then they'll look into the issue. It's very important when you are paying through PayPal to select the option to pay through goods and services. As a buyer, that won't affect you really in terms of fees. It does take a small fee from the seller, but it's really, really important for you as the buyer to click goods and services. If a seller ever tells you to pay through friends and family, that is a huge red flag. Do not buy from them. You only select goods and services. And the reason you select goods and services is when you pay through that option, that gives you buyer's protection. So let's say you bought that philodendron varicosum from Chris, and he said he was going to ship it out on Monday, and it's been 5 days and it's the next Friday and he still hasn't, shipped it out yet. And you keep trying to DM him on Facebook being like, hey, like, where's my plant? Then you can file a claim through PayPal being like, oh, the seller Chris never shipped my plant. And then in that case, they can refund you the money that you paid for the plant. So it's very, very important to only use PayPal and to use goods and services when you're paying for plants. Sometimes some sellers will say, I'll also take Venmo, Cash App, Facebook Pay, whatever. None of those other forms of payment have buyer's protection. So I would really, really, really recommend that you only use PayPal, goods and services. I'm not talking about trades in this video, but also know that for trades, you should also do a PayPal back trade, and then we'll talk more about what that means in the trade video. Okay, so just to go over some lingo, we've already talked about what a purge means, to comment sold, and it's also usually a rule in these groups that you have to comment the word sold. I've seen some people before where they try to comment like S or something so that it goes quicker. Don't do that. Just comment the word sold. Sometimes what I'll do is that I'll write the word sold and I'll copy and paste so that when I'm trying to buy a plant, I could just hit Control V versus, having to type out the word sold. Don't try to cheat and like type like S and then go back and edit your comment, because we can see that you edited your comments and that's just like really not fair. I think it's also just like good etiquette to not make comments about the price, because you don't really know why someone is pricing it at a certain point. Sometimes I'll price a plant that I really want to keep a little bit higher just because, like I want to keep it and that's my make me sell it price. And sometimes people are trying to like, just get rid of inventory, so it's priced a little bit lower. So, like don't make comments about prices most of the time. That's a rule in the group. If you don't like the prices, don't buy it. And then I'm not really going to go over like seller's etiquette in this video, but just look for conditions of plants to see if a plant is rooted, semi-rooted, if it's a cutting, and then if it's imported. If a plant is imported, you usually want to make sure that the seller has had it for at least 6 to 8 weeks before you buy it. And if a seller is not upfront with you about when they imported that plant, don't buy from them, because it's going to be a whole thing if they imported it like 2 weeks ago and then they ship it to you and it just like dies in your home because it wasn't acclimated properly. So if it's an import, make sure that they have listed when they imported it. And most sellers are really upfront about when they've imported plants. So yeah. Alright, so good sellers. So I've had a lot of like neutral experiences with plant sellers where like the plant arrived, it's fine, but it's not in like the greatest condition, so I probably like wouldn't buy from them again. Or a plant arrived like looking half dead, so I probably wouldn't buy from them again. I've never really had like a horrible negative experience where like a person just never shipped the plant or arrived completely dead or anything like that. But on the screen right now, I am going to put the names of people that I have personally bought from and have had very good experiences with, and I am very selective about giving positive reviews. So these are all the names of sellers I have personally bought from. There are a lot of very reputable sellers that a lot of people have had good experiences with, but I just haven't, and obviously their name is not on this list because I've never bought from them. So I would recommend kind of just checking out the group, see who sells a lot, see who has good reviews. Yeah. I just want to quickly show you like some plants I've bought off of Facebook. So this is a Monstera Stanleya albo variegata that I got from a Facebook purge. There you go. This hasn't given me a new leaf yet, but I feel like there's one coming out pretty soon. So I feel like we're going to get a new leaf off of that pretty soon. And then this Peperomia Pink Marble I also got from a Facebook buy sell trade group. Isn't it so pretty? It's grown so much since I unboxed it, and it's so pink and so gorgeous. It's actually insane, and I got this for such a good price too. It's crazy. So you could definitely find some gems on there. Okay, so for this last portion of the video, I want to talk about what to do if a sale goes bad. Like I mentioned, I've never really had like horrible like experiences. I've only had like very neutral to very good experiences. But if something does go bad, this is what you should do. First of all, you should clearly outline to the seller your expectations when you're talking to them about purchasing the plant. So for example, if it's currently Friday, you should be like, hi, so when are you expecting to ship out the plant? Usually they'll respond with, oh, probably Monday. And you're like, okay, great. And then on Monday, you should, if you don't hear from them, you should ask for a tracking number, and then see, you know, if they send you the tracking number. If they don't reply to you and you don't get a tracking number, sometimes it's also in your PayPal, like, activities. So go check your PayPal as well to make sure if there was a tracking number sent through there, because if you print a shipping label through PayPal, it automatically sends the person who bought the product a shipping number or a tracking number. So check your PayPal as well. And then if you don't see anything on PayPal and you ask for a tracking number on Monday and they don't reply to you, I would give them 24 hours. And then if 24 hours pass and you don't hear any communication from the seller, you should go find who the administrators of the group you purchased from are. So make sure you take screenshots of everything. Take screenshots of your conversation with the seller, take screenshots of you paying them, take screenshots of the fact that you were the first person who commented sold, etc. And then contact one of the admins for the group, tell them your situation, send them all those screenshots. Usually what they'll do is they will reach out to the seller on your behalf to just be like, hey, what's the situation? And sometimes things can be resolved that way. Like, sometimes life just happens and people have issues, you know, shipping it out on time, whatever, right? But let's say that the administrator reached out and they're also not getting a reply. I would say after, you know, like 24 hours after the administrator reaches out to the seller, then you aren't hearing anything back, you should file a claim with PayPal to try to get your money back. So it's important to go through and contact the administrator of the group as well, in addition to filing a claim with PayPal, so that they can piece all the pieces together. Because it's very likely that if this person is trying to scam you, they're trying to scam a lot of people. So it's important you do that so that the admins can piece all the pieces together and then also warn other people and remove this person from the group so that they can't affect anyone else. So very likely, if you file a claim through PayPal, it might take a couple of weeks, but it's very likely that they will side with you as the buyers if you clicked paying through goods and services. So remember, goods and services. On the complete flip side, if you have a really good experience with a seller, please consider, first of all, letting them know, like reaching out after you received your plant, that you are happy with the way it was packaged, that you received it in one piece, and then leave a review like we talked about in the buy sell trade review group. And then also, if you see them again having another purge, because most of the time sellers will have multiple purges within a month or within a couple of months, it's also really nice to give them a comment when they announce that they're about to purge. Be like, hey, I bought from blah 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 previously, it came great. I'm sure they would really appreciate that. Alright, so I think that's all of the information I have for you about Facebook buy sell trade groups. Remember, we're talking more about trading next week. In the meantime, happy browsing, happy buying plants. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!